I'm in recovery and I'm hearing the sound next to me and I'm very fuzzy and, sort of disoriented and whatnot. And I don't want to look over where the sound is coming from, but I'm hearing them saying, "Diane, wake up. Diane, wake up." And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, they've got the wrong person. They've done the wrong surgery. And I'm raising my hand and I'm saying, wait, that's me. That's me. You've got the wrong person. I'm here and I'm fine. And they're not paying any attention to me. And I'm thinking, I'm waving and I'm talking. And then I realized they're too busy. They're working on this person trying to save her life. And as I'm thinking that, I'm now standing at the bottom of her bed, looking up to her while they're working on her. And I realize it's me. My name is Diane Sherman. I grew up in Beverly Hills, California. I had a very kind of spoiled childhood. It was country club and all of that. Wonderful trips in the summer. I went to Hawaii for a month when I was 10. 13, I went to the Orient. One Christmas, my mother had purchased this children's store. It was a very small children's store. And she had it craned into the backyard and made it into a dollhouse for my sister and myself. So, my life was magical in so many wonderful ways, and I'm so grateful for all of that. But the juxtaposition of that to what I felt and what I saw and how people were interacting made none of it worthwhile. Because I never felt like I could fit in to wherever I was. The kind of elitism and snobbery that I grew up with wasn't who I was. I didn't understand it. I didn't see the need for that kind of facade that you adopt when you're in all of that. So I've always been kind of a misfit, partially because I was quiet within myself, but I also had awarenesses that a lot of kids didn't have. My sister and I used to laugh that we had ESP with each other. We always knew when some trauma was coming in the family, and there was lots of that. My father was very challenged. He was also a heavy drinker and an angry man. He was a rager. And so we sort of knew intuitively and instinctively what was coming down the pike. My mother, who was an amazing woman in a lot of ways, was a very fearful woman. And she taught my sister and myself to be fearful. And women at that point really didn't have a lot of power, And so I grew up feeling very disempowered. I went to an all-girls school. And my junior year, I was sick almost the whole year and missed so much school that I would have had to spend the summer making up all that I had missed, which made sense. But my mother had a different story to tell with her daughters, which was my sister and I were presented in Vienna that summer. And so I could not do summer school because for my mother, it was more important to do that. And coming back from the presentation was a strange experience because here you've got Viennese royalty at this presentation ball. And I'm this kid in my head who's saying, why am I here? How am I here? And I had this gorgeous dress and I had a lovely escort and it was fabulous. But I kept trying to live up to what this was. At that point, I was working as a model, which was another form of insecurity for me because I was again trying to live up to something I didn't feel I had the goods to do. But I knew how to do it to an extent because my whole childhood, my sister and I had been photographed for all the society papers. So that seemed like a natural segue for me. I stayed into working in the modeling industry for almost 17 years. And I was insecure and afraid every time I got on the runway. At that point, I was in my early 30s and, it was time to do something else. And that's when I hit the wall. I didn't know what to do with myself. My parents had both died. I was divorced. I had a 6-year-old daughter. And I just felt like a failure because here I was, divorced, little girl, not knowing where I'm going, what I'm doing. And so this one afternoon I went to church and I felt like something out of a movie where I was just almost prostrate on the floor, begging and pleading, please show me, guide me, give me some information. I don't know what to do. And it was 3 days later that I had my near-death experience. I had waited 10 years to have that surgery because I had been in Mexico with my husband. We'd been in Acapulco with friends, and I had had a swimming accident with him where I got my foot caught, the undertow hit me, pulled me around, dislocated my knee, just tore everything up in my knee. And I almost drowned because I couldn't swim. Thank God he was a very good swimmer, had played water polo in Italy for years, and he, grabbed me up and got me out and saved me. But I waited 10 years to have the surgery because at that time I would have had to have had a full-on open patella knee surgery, and working as a model, I just couldn't do that because I was in my 20s when I had the accident. So 10 years later, it's now time to have it. When I went in to have the surgery, I was very confident about it. Arthroscopy had finally gotten to a place where it was okay to do it. It was safe to do it. They were having wonderful results with it. So I went and had it done. And I'm sitting on the gurney waiting to go in. And this was a tell for me in hindsight. My body started to rack. One of the nurses came up to me and she said, "You look like you're so uncomfortable. Would you like a heated blanket?" And I said, "I'd love that." And she brought me one, put it on my body, and that seemed to calm things down. The next thing is we're going into surgery, and they put another blanket on me. And the minute they did that, I went out. And I went out before they gave me medication to go out, which is really weird. So surgery went fine, except for they had so much more to repair than they realized because they didn't have MRIs and all that stuff in 1981. And I was on the table an hour and 25 minutes longer than they had anticipated. And at that time I was very, very thin, and the anesthesia was too much for my body. So I'm in recovery and I'm hearing the sound next to me, and I'm very fuzzy and, sort of disoriented and whatnot. And I don't want to look over where the sound is coming from. But I'm hearing them saying, "Diane, wake up. Diane, wake up." And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, they've got the wrong person. They've done the wrong surgery. And I'm raising my hand and I'm saying, "Wait, that's me. That's me. You've got the wrong person. I'm here and I'm fine." And they're not paying any attention to me. And I'm thinking, I'm waving and I'm talking. And then I realized they're too busy. They're working on this person trying to save her life. And as I'm thinking that, I'm now standing at the bottom of her bed, looking up to her while they're working on her. And I realize it's me. And the funny thought was, I see me fully. And I see me there. And I had no connection to me at all. I knew I recognized myself, but that body had nothing to do with me. The next thing I realized is I'm being pulled up into the corner of the room And now I'm looking down on what they're doing. And I'm sort of notating and fascinated, but not engaged in any way. And it was like, I have no business here. The next thing I'm feeling is I'm being pulled back and then pushed forward into darkness. As a kid, the worst thing that I dealt with was fear of the dark, because I never knew what was coming in the dark. There was abuse and trauma in the house, and so being fully in the dark was just too vulnerable, too overwhelming, the scariest thing in the world for me. And also being blind, because you can't see what's coming at you. And I thought, if I can just find one little tiny glimmer of light, one little speck of something to hold on to, I'll be okay. And as I see this one little spot of light, I think, I'm going to just hang in with it, and it's going to be okay, and I'm going to be okay. And, I just worked that inside of myself. And as I'm staring at it, it's starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's coming closer and closer. And all of a sudden, it's everything around me. And I'm looking at the light, and I'm thinking, what is this? Because it was like clouds. The white is a color I've never seen before. It almost has like all the colors of the rainbow in it, but it's white. It has this glistening effect to it. It wasn't just light, it was substance and feeling, and it's all around me. It's all I can see, all I can feel, all I can experience. And I don't have words for it. How do you describe unconditional love? I don't know how to describe it. All I know is I have never felt so cared about, adored, cherished, safe. Anything you'd ever wished for to have in the world in that moment is what I felt. Satisfied beyond my wildest dream. And as I'm feeling this, I'm now moving through it, and it's parting. And all of a sudden I see these 2 rows of what look like monks to me in brown robes with the hoods up. And I'm like floating through them. And it sounds so silly every time I say it, that I'm floating. It was like something out of a movie. And I could just feel, as I'm going between them, I could just feel the love they were radiating to me. I wasn't that comfortable with men because of my childhood with my dad. And somehow these male energies all felt so loving and supportive. And it was like a healing almost for me, being in their presence. And as I get to the end of this row of monks, this one steps out and he says, and I always say he, because he felt all those good feelings of masculinity, he says, "You cannot stay, it's not your time." And I'm looking at him, and in his hood being up, there's no face. It's black, but it's like energy moving, and there are little tiny sparkles of color or light or whatever that you see in the energy. It's nothing I've ever seen before, but it seems so normal and natural because he's speaking this energy through me and I'm responding to him through him. And he's saying, "You cannot stay. You must go back." And I said, "I have finally felt what it feels like to be cherished. You cannot send me back from this. I've come home. The one place I wanted to be in my whole life was here, home. I'm here. You cannot send me back." And he said, "You have a child. You must go back." And in that moment, I'm back in my body. I had no memory of it when I woke up. The first time I thought of it was when I went out to dinner with my sister. And it was the first time I'd been in a restaurant or a group of people since the experience, because I was on crutches and, I wasn't that getting out and about that much. And I'm walking into this restaurant, and all of a sudden I am feeling everything and everybody, all their physical pain, all of their fear and anxiety, all of their chatter. It's all just like coming at me. And I thought, oh my God, I'm becoming psychotic. It really terrorized me. I didn't know what to do with that. I'd never felt anything like that before. To be that aware and that open to maybe 40 people in a room. It was like, what's happened to me? I just knew I was different. I knew my life was different. I knew I felt differently about things. I'd never heard the terminology near-death experience. I think Raymond Moody's book had been out a year when I had my experience. And I just had no awareness of anything like that could even happen. It felt a little bit like a burden in the beginning, only because it was so big for me. The awareness that I had died was big. The awareness of what the experience was big. The awareness of now having sensitivities with people was big. It was like, okay, this is who I am now. What am I going to do with it? How am I going to handle this? Can I work with this? Can I live with this? What is it that I'm supposed to do with it and for it? So I was led. I literally was spirit-led to people who could guide me and show me and help me understand that I now had gifts and talents I didn't have before, and, kind of how to hone them and work with them. I worked with people who taught me how to do deep meditations. I got into channeling and having visions, and that's how it came. And it took me quite a long time to sort that all out. For some reason, the way I'm wired from the get-go, from birth, people have always come to me with their problems. Even as a kid, people would come talk to me. And when people started gravitating to me, I realized that there was something here that I was supposed to be doing, some touchstone for people that I was supposed to unlock for them to help them move forward and get out of their pain and suffering. It just felt like something I wanted to do and felt comfortable doing. I didn't feel that I had the credentials. I didn't feel like I had gone to school and gotten all the education and everything else in order to do this with people. And they kept telling me, that's not what we want you to do. We want you to do something different. And I had to trust that to step out and say, I'm doing this. And I battled with, how dare I do this work? But yet, I do amazing sessions with my clients. And it's making differences in their lives. And every time they get a healing, I get a healing. And so I know it's right. But it took a lot for the insecure me, the me that didn't know who I was and what I was going to do, to trust to just go out and do this and say, I can help you. I can make your life better. I mean, where does that come from? But that's what they were guiding me and teaching me to know and to get grounded in myself to say, yes, you can do this. And to go from being intimidated by what people thought of you to, it's not my business what they think of me, I know where I'm going, has been a godsend and a life changer. Fear's been my biggest teacher, I think. Here's one of the acronyms that I love. FEAR stands for forgetting everything's all right. I know no matter what's happening, all is well. Because I know Spirit's working on my behalf, has my back 24/7. So for me, from going from the scared kid who had 2 ulcers by the time I was 21 to being the grounded warrior woman that I am now has been an amazing journey. And we can all be that, if we trust ourselves in our connection. There's nothing to be afraid of here. That's what I learned. Things are not as they're represented. This all seems like reality, but once you've been on the other side, this is not reality. That is. This is the story. Once you have an NDE, your sense of money, changes your sense of engagement, and what's really important to you changes. You know, for me, it's connection. It's that connectedness to other beings in the world that's important to me. It's not about what they do or how much money they have or any of it. It's the connection. I'm always looking for the miracles, the magic. I don't look for what's wrong. I look for what's right. I stay in gratitude. In the forefront, it's gratitude and playfulness. I let the rest of it go. It's not my business. Whoever you believe created us is benevolent, not malevolent, would never have created the pain and suffering that we as human beings have created for ourselves. We have to learn to self-regulate. And the best way is through loving ourselves. When you love yourself and you're not in judgment of yourself, you stop judging everybody else. And we have to have compassion and empathy for ourselves and each other. Our job is to be the best version of ourselves at all times so that we carry that into the world and make the vibratory frequency in the world better. And when we learn to do that en masse, it's going to be yummy. Because this is supposed to be fun. This is not supposed to be painful. We didn't come here to suffer. That I know with all of my heart. All I can say is I have never been stronger than I am right now at 76 years of age, and I just turned 76 a couple weeks ago. I feel, love this word, I feel invincible, which is really weird because my body's not. God knows, I've had 4 knee surgeries, but I internally, emotionally feel invincible. And I realized that, you know, age is just a number. It's the attitude we have about our lives and ourselves that makes us who we are. I think the most general thing to me is for people to work on stepping out of their fears. Fears of being insecure, about, you know, not good enough, not capable enough, don't measure up, all the stuff that I had. All the things that make you knee-jerk in every interaction you have with somebody. I think that's the biggest thing, is trust that you are a divine, perfect being and that you are loved unconditionally. It's tough to get our heads around that, but I think it's the most important thing we can learn. Because when you feel loved and appreciated and acknowledged, you can do anything. At 76, I'm now at a place where my body's going to go sooner than later, and I'm thrilled because I get to go home. It's going home. It's not a loss, it's a gain. I know there's so much else on the other side for us to do. For me, I know that there are higher realms, different realms on the other side. I want to be of service in a different way. It's not the end of anything. It's just we let go of the body, the vehicle that we, kind of stepped into and maneuver around in. But we let go of this, we become, essence, spirit again. But even if there's nothing except going back and being the source, that's plenty for me. It's so much greater than anything we could do here. So I'm excited. I'm not afraid. And that's what I tell people. There's nothing to be afraid of. You're loved unconditionally. There's no judgment on you in any way, shape, or form. They don't care what you've said, done, or been. They love you anyway. They just want the best for you. And what they're trying to teach us is for us to want the best for us.